Everyone's excited to see you guys. This originally started as a Star Wars convention. I don't know if you've seen the cantina upstairs, but yeah, everyone here, you can see all the props, the X-Wing, Darth Vader over there.
Jabba in the back. We've been around.
Everyone's so excited to nerd out with you about Star Wars. First of all, I want to know your first memories, both of you, of the franchise growing up.
Mine started with my brother, who's 8 years older than I am, and he had all the toys. He had all of, I grew up with all of these as part of my early consciousness. So it has a deep, deep effect on me. It was on rotation when we used to have VHS cassettes. So I used to wear out the tape, just watching, A New Hope, episode 4, all the time. So I grew up with them in that way.
Yeah, I remember waiting outside in a queue, and I was 7 or 8 years old to see Star Wars when it came out in the theaters. No idea what it was, but a vivid, vivid memory. And then after, my favorite character is Chewbacca, of course. So I remember when the little figurines came out, and I had a Han Solo, a Luke Skywalker, and Chewbacca were my main guys.
Okay, this is a tough question, right? You got a lot of hardcore Star Wars fans here. What is your all-time favorite scene in the history of Star Wars, or one scene that absolutely gripped you?
I mean, for me, it was the advent of Boba Fett. When you saw Boba Fett come on, and you're seeing this kind of nefarious dark side of the underdealings of what was going on in Star Wars, where you really had this polarity of good and bad, whether it was in the whole universe as a whole, in the totality, or whether it was in each person. Right, and people are in the grips of this pull and push that was going on with good and evil with everybody, and how the Force was drawing or enacting people. And then you see Boba Fett, who's kind of on the in-between, and he's just trying to get by, and so there's this whole other character arc that came in. And for me, the mystery of that, of what that might be, without them really fleshing that out at that time, it always stuck with me. And so when Mando came out later, and not even knowing what it was for a long time, just knowing that it was about bounty hunters, I was super excited. Yeah, that part. And then I think when Darth Vader, lobbed off Luke's hand, I think that was a huge part too for me. That kind of same scenario, yeah.
I think mine was, as a young kid, with Luke Skywalker, was so, his relationship with Leia, that whole, the first episode, when he comes in to rescue her, and he takes off the helmet, he says, "My name's Luke Skywalker, I'm here to rescue you." And I remember when they re-released the movies in the movie theaters in the UK before the prequels came out. They re-released the originals. And I remember that one scene coming on. And when he took the helmet off of the stormtrooper and he said that line, the whole audience just went, "Yes!"
So cool.
And I was just like, yeah, that is the coolest. And that just stuck with me. Also the dynamic between Han Solo and him as well. I think Harrison Ford's I just think his personality, he was the coolest guy. Just the outfit, his attitude, the jokes, how, that chemistry with him and, Leia. I love
Well, it was weird also, there was a love triangle.
Yeah.
Between a brother and sister and Han Solo, which was maybe the most awkward time. I'm glad I was too young to really understand what was happening with
Moving
it all,
on.
but yeah.
I mean, Simon, you both have incredibly badass characters. But your character specifically was actually named by George Lucas. He came to set and named the character.
True.
That's some claim to fame, isn't it? George has took a particular interest in your character in the show.
I found out that had happened when I was on display for Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. And as they were commenting on, what I was wearing and what could change, it was the first time they were seeing me in the outfit. They looked at each other, and I'd auditioned with an American accent. And when they heard my real accent, they said, "Actually, would you mind playing it in a British accent?" And I said, "Sure, which one?" And they went, "Yeah, that one." So it started that way. And then they said, "Shall we tell him the history of his name?" And they opened up and they said, "Well, actually, when George visited the set, he was sitting there absolutely minding his own business. And he was looking around and he said, 'You should have a character called Axe Woves.'" And they just looked at him and went, "Okay." And then they figured that out. You know, I don't know, from that point to when they decided it was going to be a Mandalorian, to the casting of it was a whole other thing. But that's how it happened, yeah.
Very, very badass. And Tait, you were in the very first episode.
I remember seeing you in that.
A different character.
First episode of The Mandalorian, and I saw you. I was like, I know that guy. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
You guys had actually worked together as well, Simon, you were telling me, so that's
Totally.
why you knew him.
Yeah, which was wild to see Simon on set and be like, oh, we worked together years before, and it all came together full circle. It's a beautiful thing in the film industry. You know, people are like, oh, what's your favorite, you know, picture at the table or something like that? And it's like, they've all got these different stories that are, you know, how the humans that I get to interact with are interwoven into that, and that's certainly one of them. I wish we had a photo from that first show that we did together. But yeah, that first character that opened the series was, it was tremendous. You know, people were like, what was that like? And it's like to be directed by Filoni and Favreau there, to work with a linguist that had worked with Lucasfilms for, you know, 20 years before, that had built a whole language, to work in the volume for the first time ever, you know, this surreal experience of being inside a video game, right? Instead of green screen to play off of, you're inside a whole room that is all video expressed. And so you're all seeing, having the same experience, you know? It was incredible. It was incredible.
And I guess it was bittersweet because you think you're saying goodbye to the show after that episode, but another character was created for you, Paz Vizsla, and you know, I'm guessing you were absolutely hyped and psyched to be coming back to the show.
Yeah, I kind of thought I lost the first job. Because somebody said, oh, Favreau, I didn't even know what I was reading for. And then they said, oh, Favreau saw your audition and he wants you to play this other character. So I thought Alpha Trawler, the first character, I thought I'd lost that. And I said, okay, I'm just here to play, you know, whatever. And then I found out I was doing both and found out the nature of what Paz was, which was this incredible, iconic character that, you know, that I'm doing poses for toys and all the Disney execs are there to, you know, see what this character's like, and they knew more of the hype of what it was than I did. I didn't really understand the grandness of the show, I think, until the first scene that I'm doing with Mando and then the armor. And when we're sitting there and waiting, and I watch Emily Swallow come out as the armor, and in this grandness of her gold helmet and the fur and her regality, it was amazing, a real phenomenal experience. And I go, oh my God, this is incredible. Yeah.
And Simon, was it true that your character was initially meant to be killed off at the end of season 2? And
not even the end of season 2.
Earlier than that.
The very first episode that I went and shot in, we filmed my death.
Wow.
So at the end of episode that I'm in, the heiress, when Mando, in the episode that you guys watch, when Mando runs down the corridor and throws the grenades in to the cockpit area, what we filmed originally was me running all the way in and diving in myself. And then we filmed it and I left. And it was great. Lovely to meet everybody. I'm officially dead. What a privilege. Wonderful to meet you all. And then once they'd finished the finale and they'd shot the ending of the whole season, got a phone call and they said, we've rewatched it, we like you, we're thinking different trajectory for your character, would you like to come back and we'd reshoot the ending? I asked if I had to pay them money, and they said no, obviously not, you know. It was like a privilege, and we went and reshot the ending. And while I was there, actually, at the same time as they were filming my new ending of that episode, they had all of the green screen, and they were shooting Luke Skywalker's bit for the end of the season.
Oh, wow.
And they said to me, hey, look, you're seeing some things here. Can you keep a secret? So I had to stay quiet for about, I don't know, how long was it? I think it was about 8-9 months from filming that early that year to the finale of season 2.
That's amazing. Well, I'm so glad that you're still a part of the show.
Me too.
It gives a lot of hope when a guy dies so many times in the same show and can come back. You're like, we'll see.
Well, can we see you come back again for the third time? Could it be third time lucky and we can see you stick around for a good amount of time? Because Paz's sacrifice at the end of season 3, It was a very emotional moment. Do you have that emotional attachment when you're saying goodbye to a character like that? Because you've done it before now, haven't you? With
it was for sure my best death. It was intense. And it was intense knowing where it arcs to the whole time. The first day on set, Favreau was like, so here's how this ends, right? So 8 months then go by, and then I'm in the scene, and you know, Bo-Katan cuts a hole in the back, and all the stunt guys and everybody's in that corridor, and they go, Tait's not fitting through that hole, and I'm the only one that really knows that I'm not, right? That's not where I end, and yeah, it was incredible. It was and I didn't really understand the grandness of it either until I get to see it. You know, living through it and filming it's a different thing than seeing the drama that's created when the Red Guard's feet come up and the smoke. It was really fantastic. Yeah. And
you both, you mentioned the volume, working with that. As an actor, that must be an actor's dream, right? Because I know Ewan McGregor had mentioned how difficult it was working with green screen in the prequel trilogy. So what was that like, just looking around the surroundings that we as viewers see on the show? What was that experience like on set?
It was like being in the TV. It's like you're with your friends and you're inside a video game. I mean, it'd be like if we're in this room and the ceiling and the walls and everything are all screens, and ships are flying through, and monsters come out of the wood. I mean, it's that, and you're all perceiving at real time in the same way.
That's the key, I think. I think it's like before the volume, when someone's describing to you, especially a director or the writer, the creators are describing to you what the effects will eventually look like. For example, a big monster, or what upends the ship that we're in season 3 when we're there
with the big, yeah.
You
feel the shadow of the tail coming over the ship, and you almost feel the concussion.
Yeah.
I mean, you're visually stimulated in such a way that this is happening. This is where you are.
Yeah, and the technology allows all the performers to share a singular vision, and I think that is the greatest difference now. Is that we all are reacting to the same vision, and the vision is agreed. And it's quite something, understanding and feeling that what you're seeing as an actor's eye will be what the audience sees through the camera behind you. It really cuts it down to the immediacy for performance. And I think that allows a lot more of those magic moments between us as actors to kind of relate. Because ultimately, if we can relate more, that will give more to the audience, and that we share that. And that's why I think The Mandalorian was that first show to bridge that technological divide. Whereas before, a lot of CG left a lot of audiences removed. And I think if you're not understanding what that vision is, how can you expect to empathize and share that with the audience? So I think that's been a really incredible piece of technology for everyone, audience and performers alike.
It really is an amazing creation. Like, I absolutely loved watching the documentaries after each series where it showed the behind the scenes. And I don't know how often you guys actually worked with Pedro Pascal directly, because I know he does a lot of his lines not in the suit, like he does them pre-recorded. So what were your interactions like with Pedro, if you had any?
Yeah, go ahead.
I had zero interaction. I've never met the man. For me, Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder carried that suit, and that's who I interacted with throughout the series.
When I first turned up on season 2, he was there. Like, we did the whole episode together, and obviously, I'm a huge fan of his as an actor. So working with him and rehearsing with Bryce Dallas Howard, who was our director, and understanding the relationship between him, Brendan, Lateef, and seeing that kind of symbiosis. And also understanding that there was an understanding, which we've now since seen has been vocalized, that it is a collaborative effort for all of that. But my personal relationship with Pedro grew into a friendship, which he's a very funny guy. And to see that Tim play such action roles, but also be this very cerebral, funny guy, has been wonderful. And to see him go on and be so busy and do so well, it's great. It's really great, yeah.
You're both no stranger to hand-to-hand combat scenes. Obviously, Tait, yourself, you're a former MMA fighter and have a big background in the stunt world as well. So if you had to pinpoint a scene from your experience working on the show, both of you, what would you say? And I think I know what yours is going to be.
Working in what, sorry?
Just a specific hand-to-hand combat scene throughout the whole show. I think yours probably would be Bo-Katan. Would that stand out for yourself, would you say?
Yes, of course. I mean,
Awesome.
that was an amazing moment, but I must say the whole chess and the fight scene with Tait was so much fun because we were dealing with a lot. Yeah. And I think with Katie, when we filmed our fight, there was a lot more. I think we had the luxury of time to shoot that one, whereas with our scene, we were really up against it. There was a lot less time to get it right. And with things like that in hindsight, it's a fun story. During, with a bit of fatigue, you'll get a little knock, or you'll fall over or get chinned. So for me, I look back on that in a different light with a small smile to myself and gratitude that Tait didn't put all his weight into a swing,
What about yourself, Tait?
I really like the opening scene where we see Paz first and Din go at each other a little bit, and it sets up this what's perceived, I think, by the audience as an adversarial relationship, which is more like a training exercise of here's this guy that comes into our forge that doesn't really have any kind of history or lineage with the way at all, and needs to be pushed along in the correct way. And so these little corrections that come out physically, I think were pretty special. It was a great relationship that we started to build, and that was the beginning of it. Yeah.
I know you can't give too much away about season 4, but we can fully expect to see you back in season 4, right? And we've got to get another role for you for season 4. Come on.
I'm hoping they do a live action of Bad Batch, and I'll come back as Wrecker.
That'd be cool. Bad Batch
how cool would that be?
Very cool. Yeah. Bad Batch
Thank
was
you,
awesome.
thanks.
But yeah, how excited are you for the fans to see what's in store for season 4?
I mean, even with season 3, we don't find out until quite late in the game, what's happening. I think everyone involved in the show is just grateful. I think the first thing is that everyone that's involved with The Mandalorian, in my experience, and I think I can say with confidence, Tait can, reaffirm this, but everyone's a fan of the show. Every single member of the crew, the cast, are giddy with excitement to be involved in something like that. So that's the first thing, that however it moves forward, and whoever's involved and however they decide to tell the story or let us know, we're just glad to be there. So they do play with a long time frame, and I've seen how hard they fight to get the timings to work and allow the actors they want in. They work around schedules. So we may not know till the last minute, but they certainly do their best to make sure we can turn up and play. Because if they like us, we like them, everyone's invited. Personally, I think the story might follow Mando and Grogu on their own adventure around. Whether or not Mandalore is involved or not for season 4, I don't know. That's my own gut instinct, nothing official, but I don't know. I think that's sort of where it left off at the end. It was them two alone out there. Who knows what the galaxy's got in store for them, but here's hoping we see more of us. Yeah.
You've both been a part of some amazing franchises away from Star Wars. Yourself, we were talking about Quantum of Solace, James Bond. A lot of actors' dreams to be a part of that. Yourself, John Wick, Jurassic World, should I say. If we have to pinpoint one or two franchises you'd both love to be a part of in the future, or major properties, what are we looking at? What are we targeting? It's a tough one, right?
For me, I like making movies with my friends. And so in the off time, we've been able to do a lot of independent shows and build those. And I've been most excited about building our own stories and going out from there. In this world, it's like you're waiting to be asked to play a lot. And that's a way. That's the way that I've been here. That's the way I've interacted. But you can also create that. And unless you have creation, you don't really have agency, right? And to really own yourself and own the story and put those stories out that I'd like to see happen is really where I'd like to go next with my career.
Yeah, I think I'm such a fan of what we do. Again, to be asked to come and play. I think after a certain point, you look back and you realize what you've done. You kind of go, well, if they take James Bond back in time to like the 50s.
Wow.
If you get like Christopher Nolan, and if he takes the period Bond,
that would be amazing.
like a 1940s, 50s Bond, and they get me back in some other complete different character, I lie there at night thinking about stuff like that.
I like you as James Bond in the 50s.
Well, thank you.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
I say we write that.
Yeah.
Like, that's interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, everybody.
Bond and Bond villain. We've got it right
my
there.
God.
With Nolan as director.
Blofeld.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
perfect.
I get you a stranger eye. I see you in that. Yeah, okay. All
Just
right.
pitched a film right there.
That's it. Chris, if you're listening out there.
I want to roll as a producer on that then, if we're talking about that for real.
But I mean, I guess that's what I mean. It's so creative what we do. When you think that, this is the franchise, it's gone that way and it's done. You just never know.
Right.
I think that these things are our new mythologies.
Yeah.
I think that our modern day mythologies are things like Star Wars, Marvel, of course. And who knows, they can reanimate ideas, refocus the attention, tell it from a different... Whatever it is, we're around, we're up for playing,
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think that to put to people too is that this idea of what Mandalorian was a couple guys that saw Boba Fett in Empire Strikes Back 180 years ago, and then they lived through and they go, let's write this. They're in a position where they want to write this story, and it becomes, and it's no grander or more extravagant an idea than any idea that anybody here has. It's just putting pen to paper and going, I want to go ahead and push this through and create that. And I think that's the beautiful part about George Lucas, his legacy for sure, but like artists of all kinds, is that Tolkien is like they create and imbue this idea of creation to you and of what your imagination is, and that's way grander than anything we can see on a screen. And so to have more people express more stories, it's like, that's really, I think, what I'm interested in seeing. And that's the beauty of coming to shows like this, is to see all the artisans, to see all the people that have created. My favorite part of The Mandalorian was before corporate got involved in making dolls. And there was no Grogu doll. They just called him the baby, the child, right? And then I get to see everybody on the internet that's a fan that makes their own idea, their own rendition of what that is. And it's way better than anything Hasbro can do. It's just a beautiful thing that inspires in people. And I think, that's the thing to never numb and let dull. I think that's the important part of art, is inspiration.
Amazing. Well, I know a lot of fans want to speak to you guys and nerd out with you, so we've got the microphone stand there, so if you want to make your way to the center and ask whatever you want, guys. Don't be nervous. There we go, first one.
Hello.
Hi there. I was wondering, what's the funniest behind-the-scenes moment you guys had?
Boy, funny becomes like maybe you're hoping it's not tragic, but like the volume is so realistic that there were scenes where you can't tell where the reality of the floor you're on is separate from what the screen of the volume is. And I watch guys walk right off stage and tumble, right? It's, yeah. But the most hilarious I think happens late at night. And you get a little slap happy and there's just all the hijinks that surround it, or somebody's trying to do a serious scene and then Brennan Wayne is making faces in the background or something like that.
My first day of filming with Katie Mercedes was coming out of the elevator and being faced with a room full of stormtroopers. And the rehearsal starts, we come out, and our guns, our blasters are connected via a wire to the back of the gun, up the sleeve to a backpack that's battery operated, and then when you fire, lights flash, so that when they do the special effects, it looks like the lasers are firing and the reflections. I mean, it's very detailed. So we get through the rehearsal. Bryce walks up to us and she says, okay, guys, this is day one for 2 or 3 of you. We get that. We're going to do it again. This time, I know you aren't actually firing lasers, but just try not to say under your helmets, pew, pew, because we can hear you. So if you can imagine the doors opening and a bunch of us coming out just going, pew, 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 pew. That was quite funny, and also took you back to when you were about 5 years old, pretending you had a blaster. So that's always going to stay with me, because I went straight to that kid. You know what I mean? So definitely one of my funnier moments.
Who's next, guys? What a costume. Got to respect that.
Hello, is it working? Hi guys. So you've both had scenes in The Mandalorian, Tait as different characters with and without a helmet. How challenging is it to try and convey physicality when you can't see your face at all? And how different is that to when you're then able to take it off and play it differently?
Over to you on that one, I think.
Well, I would say it takes a tribe. You know, you need all the people with you. You're not sure. I mean, just as you know, in the suit, you're visually impaired a little bit, auditorily perhaps, and you're really not knowing how much a head tilt reads to people, and so you need feedback, and yeah, I think that's it. I think my biggest challenge in the suit was it pulls you down. It's a weight, right? And so you're trying to be fully expressed and powerful within this suit, and so then what's allowed also. The suit's like a different entity. What's the suit gonna allow me to do, and what am I gonna need to demand of the suit? And you're in that struggle kind of all day long. And inside of that then is like, how am I putting personality into the suit as well, you know? And also, you know, there's all the dialogue that goes with it, but like a lot of that stuff maybe is not seen unless you exaggerate a head tilt, or unless you're moving your shoulders in a certain way. You're not really sure how that looks. And so you need Emily Swallow, or you need, Rick or somebody to be like, okay, we need this more, this less, whatever. Takes help.
Yeah, I mean, for me, even when the helmet's off, when it's on and you're standing around, I think as an actor, I always had an expression, which is know your feet. Like how you walk in everyday life affects, everything you do. Walking into a room confidently. When you're wearing a Mandalorian suit, there's some of the characters are massive. Like Tait's not a small guy, and I'm meant to be this fighting warrior. You know that you've got to hold yourself a certain way, or have a certain attitude that you carry, even in the way you stand. So you start to think, well, if that's the case, what's this character's backstory? How would he have started wearing this? How does he fight? And then if you're lucky enough to have a designer like we had with Shauna Triptych, God rest her soul, she'll work with you in terms of, well, what feels right? How can you move in this? What kind of movement would you like to do? What do you see yourself in terms of fighting? These are the kind of conversations you have in designing, the approach to a character that feeds into the writing, that evolves the way you stand and move. So it can be as simple or as complex as you're lucky enough to collaborate with the people you're working with. So you take that into the body language with and without the helmet, I would say.
Who's next, guys?
Oh, Isaac. Hey, buddy.
Let's help him out with the microphone there. Thank you.
What's your favourite line of The Mandalorian?
Sorry, repeat that a little bit again.
What's your favourite part of The Mandalorian?
Got it. Favorite part of The Mandalorian.
I like the idea of being upstaged by a puppet. that Grogu's always going to be number one in everybody's hearts.
Yeah,
it keeps you humble.
Yeah, I think the bit where Din Djarin at the end of season 2 removes his helmet to say goodbye before Grogu goes off with Luke. I think that for me is a really beautiful, powerful moment. And it's certainly, I was in tears,
I gotta say, it's guys like you that are the best part of The Mandalorian for me. I think for all of us, it's your excitement, it's doing this, and it's being able to be here with y'all that makes it real special.
Yeah, agreed. Well said, well said.
Hello, guys. This question is for Tait. First of all, congratulations on your noble death. It was really powerful. The question is, I'm Hungarian, and you know the character's name. You pronounce it Vizsla, but officially it is a Hungarian dog breed name called Vizsla. It's a hound. So do you know anything about the origin of the name, how it came for the Star Wars? Because it was stunning to see a dog.
Right. Yeah, I don't know that, but I had a Vizsla when I was a little boy, and so I was familiar with the dog. I only know his lineage, back to Tar Vizsla and the Clone Wars, but I don't know as far as how they got the names together. I did ask Filoni, I said, so who's my baby mama? Who's Ragnar's mom? And he intimated to me, but there's a lot of those histories that are still just in the ethos of imagination. Yeah.
Who's next, guys? There we go.
Loki.
Hello. So, if you could play anyone else in Star Wars, who do you reckon you'd play? I feel like Tait Wrecker needs to happen. If they ever do that live action, that petition needs to be started now. And I can see a Jedi Master role for Simon.
I like you, Loki. You can come again.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
I think again, my favorite growing up was Han Solo. I'd love to play a character like that. And when I auditioned for Axe Woves, the guy that went in before me, they had the lines that they were reading when we were auditioning were for the scene where we're running down the hallways and giving each other commands. And the actors that were going in before me, I could hear what they were doing in the room. And they were doing so well. These guys were really just killing the audition. And I thought, I can't do better than this. So I thought, well, let me try and be cool like Han Solo. Didn't go down very well in the audition room, but it got me the gig. So I channeled Han Solo for that audition. So that's who I would love to, a character like him, but also.
That'd be very cool. Any other questions, guys? Yeah.
Hi. So going back to when you were talking about the volume, it's a very interesting piece of equipment and something to be using on a film set. Was that used for sort of the whole process, or were there some physical locations as well?
Yeah, but both. We were inside sound stages for much of it, and that's where the volume takes place. They'll take a warehouse like this with a ceiling 3 times this high, and then they'll build little villages or rooms or different scenarios within it. There's also outside, we filmed outside that was just kind of in a parking lot that the opening scene of season 3, when the monster comes up out of the pond after Ragnar gets his helmet, like that whole scene happening is all outside. Or when when the bird comes and he grabs Ragnar and takes him away. And so during that scene, we're all looking at a real cavern. Well, it's carpentry has built it, but which God, they did amazing stuff. The work. That's the thing too, is like it's being in a master class. Everybody that is there is not only a fan of this whole mythology, the decades of this work that's gone on, but they're masters of their craft. And so you're just watching excellence all around you. And so they transform this parking lot into this cavern with sand and a lake, and it's all functional, but there's no bird to fly by. So then at one point there's, this will be section 1, 2, 3, 4, and then somebody will be shouting out 1, and then all the Mandos are looking at 1, and then the bird travels 2, 3, so you can be tracking the bird as it's flying around. And so, we have the most cutting edge technology, and then at the same time, like we were speaking about yesterday, sometimes to make guys fly, it's a guy jumping off a ladder with a rope that pulls, you know what I mean? It's all of it all together. We utilize whatever it is for function and performance to look as good as it can.
Amazing. Any other questions, guys? No, I think that wraps everything up then.
Right
What
on.
an absolute pleasure to speak to you both.
Thanks so much. Thanks for
so
having
much, guys.
us.
Everyone give it up for Tait.
Thanks,
and
Thank you
Simon.
guys very much for coming out. God bless you, Manchester.
God bless you all.